call to order the City of Oxnard Planning Commission regular meeting for Thursday, March 18, 2021. May we have roll call, please?
Chair Frank.
Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here.
Commissioner Araujo.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Mr. Kolwitz, would you like to do the honors this evening?
Well, yes, Chair Frank, before we start the Pledge of Allegiance, the honors that I wanted to share with everyone was a brief introduction of our two newest planning commissioners. I think it's fairly obvious to our commissioners. We're joined tonight by Commissioner Araujo as well as Commissioner Lopez. So a quick introduction from both of them. So Commissioner Araujo lived in South Oxnard until he went to UCLA for his undergrad degree. While at UCLA, he was appointed to serve on the chair of the Finance Committee under the auspices of the undergraduate student government during one of his last 1.5 years at UCLA. He graduated with a master's in public administration with concentrations in public finance administration and local government management from Indiana University, Bloomington. During his graduate career, he was elected as the treasurer for the graduate student body and served as an interim for a U.S. representative at the local district office. He landed in his first job as a management analyst for Altoona, Wisconsin, and forgive me if I pronounce the name of the city incorrectly, in which he gained much knowledge of city operations, including elections, economic development, financing, planning, library operations, lobbying, and many others. After a couple of years, he found his way back to California, first at China Lake Naval Base in Kern County, and now for the past 4 years at Point Mugu Naval Station, most of the time in finance-related positions. He has been involved with the East Village Community Council for the past 3 years and is excited to now also be serving with all of you on the Planning Commission. So Commissioner Araujo, thank you and welcome to the commission. And I'll turn it over to you really quick to see if you have any follow-up comments or anything else you wish to share with your fellow commissioners.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kolwitz. I am very excited to be here and to be serving the city of Oxnard in this position. I would just like to give a brief personal thanks to 3 people who've been very important to me for the past few years, especially in my role now that I will be serving. To my best friend, Angela, who's watching me from Thailand. She got me more interested in local government, even though I was focusing on state and national until just recently in the past couple of years. And to my parents, to my dad, who immigrated here from the Philippines via the US Navy, landed in Oxnard and never left. My mom followed shortly after from the Philippines also in the 1980s. And when we decided to move from South Oxnard, we looked at Ventura and Camarillo, and we landed still here in Oxnard. And Oxnard was great for me as a kid. I'm glad I came back through the Midwest and came back here through my job. And I'm looking forward to making and investing in Oxnard's future for myself and for our kids and kids' kids. So thank you very much. Appreciate the introduction.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
And without further delay, I also wanted to give a brief bio of Commissioner Lopez. So Commissioner Lopez was born and raised in Oxnard. And I should say not only Commissioner Lopez, but Dr. Lopez attended our local public schools, McKenna Elementary, Rose Avenue, the former Haydock and Frank Junior High, and graduate of Wainema High School. He attended UC Santa Barbara, where he served as a member of the Chancellor's Campus Planning Committee, approving the campus's strategic long-range development plan and redevelopment plan of Pardo Road in Isla Vista. Commissioner Lopez completed his graduate training and earned his PhD at UCLA in 2017. So to both of our new commissioners, go Bruins. Dr. Lopez has worked and served in leadership roles in higher education, the nonprofit sector, with our federal government in Washington, D.C., and on Capitol Hill. Additionally, he served as the community affairs manager with the Oxnard Police Department from 2013 to 2016, and he was recognized as the Oxnard City Employee of the Year in 2015. Congratulations. On a personal note, he had a pandemic wedding and married Elizabeth Botello in July. Congratulations again. Dr. Lopez also serves on the board of Clínicas de Camino Real, Inc., and has volunteered for Food Share Ventura County on a weekly basis since the start of the pandemic, helping individuals experiencing food insecurity and families in our community most in need. So Commissioner Lopez, welcome as well to the commission. And let me turn it over to you as well for any introductory comments you'd like to make on your own behalf.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that I'm honored and humbled to have been appointed to the Planning Commission. And I look forward to working with all of you and serving in this new capacity and role to ensure smart, sustainable, and responsible growth for all of us here now and future generations. Thank you so much to the city staff for helping us get on board this week. And again, just very much look forward to working and serving with you all in this new role.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. So Commissioner Lopez, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We'll move to item C on our agenda, public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items that are not on our agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Chair Frank, Dee was letting me know that we do have 3 people that have signed up for public comment. However, nobody is on the line currently.
Okay.
So what we can do at this point in time is we can continue forward.
I'll move to the consent agenda and we'll come back to item C on the agenda. Consent agenda, approval of our minutes from February 18, 2021. Other than the correction that I announced Governor Newsom's executive order, which I wasn't there, so I couldn't have announced it. With that correction, are there any other comments or corrections by commissioners who were present?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Chavez.
Just a quick question to staff. If how do we move forward with this? Because it's only 3 of us that were actually at that meeting. Is it still take a vote, or how does that work?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. The approach to take is that if 3 of you who were there vote yes and the others abstain, because this is not a resolution, that will still pass and we'll move forward.
Okay. Madam Chair, I'll move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
motion passes.
And the record will reflect that the remaining commissioners and the chair abstain.
Yeah. I think council was just talking to us, and as Chair Frank was also talking, what we'll do is we'll reflect that the other commissioners, Chair Frank, Commissioner Arijo, and Commissioner Lopez will all be on the record as abstaining from that vote.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll return to item C. Do we have our speakers available?
No.
No, no one has called in. So at this point in time, we would recommend just moving beyond the public comments for items not on the agenda.
Correct. Item E on our agenda is ex-party declarations. There's no one to have an ex-party with, but does anybody have any ex-parte?
Chavez, none.
Meyer, no.
Sanchez, no.
And for the benefit of our two newest commissioners, ex parte communications, this is a time where if you had any conversations that might influence the way you're thinking about these particular items, conversations with members of the public, or had you visit a particular site, you can declare that publicly. Ultimately, where we are trying to land is confirming that any conversations that you have had will not bias your decision in any deliberations that we may have. But as you've heard from your fellow commissioners, no one's had any ex parte communications. And if that's the same for you, that'd be appropriate to say as well.
Thank you. May I speak, Chair Frank?
Of course.
Thank you, Mr. Kolwitz, for that explanation. I was just not going to say anything, but then for the record, no, I have none.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez.
No, I have not.
Thank you. We'll move to item F, public hearing, F1. This is a 2030 general plan and local coastal plan conformity determination for the City of Oxnard's capital improvement program for 2021 through 2026. Tatiana is going to guide us through this.
Chair Frank, as a reminder, due to Measure M, staff is unable to give a presentation on this. However, we did post the video with the packet, so that was available for the public's viewing. Staff is here for any questions that any of the planning commissioners may have on this item.
I was simply trying to ascertain that Tatiana is there for us, right?
That's correct.
Thank you. Commissioners, did you all have an opportunity to review the Measure M presentation? I'm assuming yes.
Yes.
Has anyone have any questions or comments of staff? Tatiana is here.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Chavez.
I just had a few questions to staff. In regards to the PowerPoint presentation, slide number 8 under fiscal year 2021-26 CIP new projects. I had a question in regards to the Oxnard Aquatic Center. As to one, where is the location going to be built? And in regards to how is this one constitute to fall under a new CIP project?
Commissioner Chavez. So the final location of the aquatic center has not been selected at this time. There are a few locations that are being considered. However, it hasn't been finalized. And so it is going to be in the South Oxnard area. And that's what we do know at this time. And as far as how it constitutes a new CIP project, so this was a part of the City Council's 5-year priorities list. It made at least it was spoken of in depth through those meetings. And so as a result of that, we added it to this next iteration of the 5-year capital improvement program.
I appreciate that explanation. I also had a question in regards to how I know there was a few parks lighting being upgraded. How is that determined to be placed onto the CIP? Is there a certain criteria for certain parks to get placed on the CIP?
So it is various factors. Sorry, we're getting feedback over here. All right. So there are various factors in determining the scope of work for any given project, including our parks projects. As for lighting, so security has been an issue in the past with several of our parks. And so what the Parks Division, including and engineering staff are doing is evaluating each of the parks that we do have available funding for, such as Quimby or other means, and determining those that need additional lighting for security purposes so that our residents can enjoy these, after it starts getting a little bit darker. That's how we determine those. And it also has to do with how much funding we have available. So what are we doing with the means that we have?
Now, because you brought it up, I a question in regards to the Quimby funds, because there's some neighborhoods that are a little bit older that may not have those funding. Are they allocated additional funding when they are placed on the CIP?
So that's ultimately a council decision, how they want to disperse funding to other parks that do not have Quimby funding. So we would have to be using general fund funds or things of that nature for those projects. And so the allocation happens at that time based on council direction.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioners? I'll just comment that I'm very pleased to see within the 23 new projects, the senior center at St. Patterson finally making some progress, getting on a list. So I'm very pleased about that. As a member of Measure O, we've been pushing that for a long time. So, yeah.
If you don't mind, Chair, I do want to highlight that that was also a conversation in the 5 years priority list with the City Council.
Oh, I watched it. Yeah, I saw.
Right.
Very, very pleased with that movement. All right. There's nothing further. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm
Chair
so
Frank.
sorry. If you want to speak, you have to let me know. Commissioner Meyer.
Chair Frank.
I'm sorry.
Okay, who would be speaking first?
Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair. Now I got to remember my question. I was curious if I could get some clarification on who's involved with the prioritization process, because I understand there's a process that involves, several factors, including funding available, when the funding expires, and different factors as far as how severe the need is for certain things. But I'm wondering who are the people that assess that exactly, because it would give me a better sense of how that process works.
Great question, Commissioner Meyer. So that's actually a process that includes several departments throughout the city, from public works to finance to the city manager's office. And what we do is we collectively make these recommendations to city council, and then city council ultimately determines the actual priority for projects. But the way that we determine it is, you were alluding to it, Commissioner Meyer, where we look at it as if it's a life and safety issue, then that obviously gets ranked pretty high. If it's for the maintenance and repair of existing infrastructure, such as our streets and our facilities, that would be priority number 2. And then anything that's new infrastructure, we categorize as priority number 3. But I do want to reiterate that ultimately speaking, City Council is who makes the final call on how these projects are prioritized.
Understood. I think, for example, as we're talking about with the Aquatic Center, I believe it's new, but I believe it was put in as a number 2 priority. And that would be, so that would be reflective of perhaps the City Council saying this is a higher priority than a normal new project that would be in 3.
That's correct, because it was on their 5-year priority list. So again, that's just a recommendation. They might have us put it back down to number 3, but at this time, because it made their 5-year priority list, it's ranked a little bit higher than other new infrastructure.
Gotcha. So you propose, like you shared a draft, for example, with us to the City Council with your suggested priorities, and then they affirm or change them as they see.
That's correct.
Okay. Great. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Arujo.
Thank you, Chair Frank.
Am I saying your name correctly?
Arwejo.
Arwejo.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you very much.
Arwejo.
A couple of questions. Overall, in general, I see that the projects are categorized into several goals. Is there any instance where they're categorized into multiple goals or sub-goals, or are they prioritized in just the first or main goal for simplicity or just for standard's sake?
Commissioner Alejo, this is Scott Kolwitz. That's a great question. There are multiple policies and goals that may cover any given item. We touched on we categorize things for simplicity's sake to touch the goals and policy and project that was the most obvious of all the goals and policies. But it's quite possible to give you a very complicated staff report and document. We elected to keep it fairly simple by just identifying the one that we thought was the most appropriate.
Acknowledge. I thought I get that for this initial setting, but for future, especially if it's a high priority or contentious, I would see that multiple goals would be likely to give further support to a project. Thank you for that explanation. And then I would like to refer to the building section on page 5. I see that buildings are being rated. How often are they rated? And I get that the CIP is 100,000 K minimum. Is there a percentage of a building that gets it into the CIP plan, even if it's not at 100 K?
So as far as how often they're rated, we are working towards getting on a cycle to have these evaluated more frequently. I can say that that hasn't been done necessarily in the past, but the frequency, I'd have to get back to you, Commissioner Arrejo, on how frequently that needs to happen. I'll need to talk to our facility staff on that, as I know that they're putting a plan together for exactly what you're discussing here. And can you clarify your second question there? So you're asking if a certain percentage of a building, can you clarify that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm on a federal standards when sometimes a certain percentage of a building is being refitted or updated. Sometimes it's automatically needs to use construction funds. And I just wondered if there was a separate percentage in regards to CIP. I mean, it could be 100,000, but it could be a super large building or vice versa. I just wanted to know if there's an additional criteria just in regards to buildings that would make it into CIP, even though I know that those are the 2 criteria in regards to that in general.
I understand, thank you. No, at this time, the only criteria are those 2 that were already listed.
Acknowledge. And one last question in regards to parks and open spaces. I see that there's a lot of trees. I was wondering, is there a tree inventory that has been done by the city? And I use my experience in Altoona, an intern from a local university did a tree inventory, and it was very helpful due to the emerald ash borer infestation. And I was wondering if we wanted to be proactive in the future, did we have that either paid by the city through the contractor or even volunteer work by a student or group?
Commissioner Arrejo, to answer your question, we do have a tree inventory, although that doesn't relate to the general plan consistency checks on the CIP, as that wouldn't be a part of the CIP, but we do have an inventory of our trees here in the city of Oxnard.
Okay, thank you. I'll follow up with you on that later. Thank you, Chair Frank. I'm done with my questions.
Thank you.
Chair Frank.
Commissioner Lopez.
I had a couple of the same questions, but wanted to start off my remarks with thanking Tatiana for that excellent presentation, as well as city staff and all the departments that played a role in collaborating with the 5-year CIP booklet. It's impressive, comprehensive, and no easy feat to coordinate it all. And certainly wanted to recognize all of those who played a role in putting it together for us today. I had the same questions in terms of the aquatic center, with it being a new development and it being prioritized at level 2. So thank you for clarifying that. And then as well as Commissioner Arrejo's question on the prioritization of the goals. For example, some of the park facilities or the public restrooms, I felt or I saw that fell into either priority level 2 or 3 for the preservation of existing buildings or new construction. But those could also very well fall into category 1 for health and safety. I have been at parks most recently this past weekend at one of the food share pantries in Southwinds, for example, and there were several people who needed to access the public restroom and it was closed. And so in that regard, I do certainly see that as both a health and safety and would like that to perhaps play a little bit more of a consideration with the prioritization moving forward. Aside from those 2 questions that have already been answered, also want to just acknowledge the information on slides 15 and moving forward, and just the excellent job on the progress and accomplishments that you all have been able to make this year. With everything, against us as a community and with the pandemic, quite impressive. And so thank you all for, staying the course, keeping, your eye on those goals and moving them forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Commissioner Lopez. And we actually have a lot more coming this next fiscal year. So hopefully next year you'll see even more on that list.
Tatiana, let me clarify with you, please. These prioritizations have already been put in place by the city council at the meeting before last. Is that accurate?
Are you talking about the existing projects that have come
Yes.
before you in the past?
Yes.
Yeah, so those have already been prioritized. So, however, I do want to note that council does have the ability in this next iteration to change those priorities.
Exactly. And a good portion of their determination is based on, as I recall, we had some surveys, public surveys, and some community neighborhood meetings.
That's correct. That's taken into consideration.
Okay. All right. Anyone want to make?
Madam Chair,
Who is speaking?
Commissioner Sanchez,
Vice Chair Sanchez.
thank you. Just on page 22, examples of projects by fiscal year. Had a question is having to do the thought process on some of this. Looking at 20, 21, 22, and then there's 22, 23. And I see there IT networking hardware replacement, that's until next year. And then between 2023, 24 to 26, there's the rehab of the council chamber and things like that. Just sort of curious how the thought process, how all these items went into certain years.
It goes back to the discussion about prioritization, right? So whatever council has us prioritized, we will make happen. And we have some idea of what the next few years look like. But again, that's subject to change at any given time with a number of factors. So again, that's just an example of what the projects may look like based on the current priorities.
And of course, budget as well. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair Frank. Yeah, one thing that confused me was when I compared the project categories page, page 3 of the CIP booklet draft versus what was mentioned in the letter that preceded it from the city manager. And the city manager mentioned that the total, the CIP total is approximately $560 million. And on page 3, just adding up the 5-year estimated cost by classification, that's substantially more than that. So are these actually referring to 2 different things?
Commissioner Meyer, that's a great question. That is a typo on the page 3. What's in the city manager's letter is accurate to what the current CIP, where it stands today.
Oh, okay. So is there already an updated pie chart with numbers to replace that?
Yes, so we will make sure that that makes it into the version that gets to committee.
Okay. That's good because it's a substantial difference. I believe we're talking about somewhere around 700 million here versus the 560. So
Without knowing more, Commissioner Meyer, what I think is being shown on page 3 is the total project cost even beyond the 5 years, as some of these projects do go beyond the 5-year period. So we'll correct it so that it's showing either the 5 years or we'll change the title so that it explains it a little bit better.
great. Thank you.
Anyone else? We have a motion for the recommended action. Is the recommended action?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Frank, a section by Chavez. Roll call.
Chair Frank,
Yes.
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes,
Commissioner Araujo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yes.
A motion passes.
Thank you. I'd like to return to item C on our agenda. Do we have any speakers for public comment?
Chair Frank, we do not have any study sessions or reports to provide.
No, I'm asking
Actually,
about
we have
public
one
comment.
public comment for the item. Pat Brown,
Has anyone shown up for public comment?
Okay, my apologies. If we're returning back to public comment, then we do have a member of the public here to speak on items not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
no, not on the agenda, on item F1.
Or did we have someone to speak on F1?
Yes, we do. We have Pat Brown to speak.
Perfect.
And Chair Frank, that was our mistake. Pat Brown is here to speak on item F1, which is the item you just took a vote on.
Okay.
So what we would recommend at this point in time is let's take public comment, see if there are any additional comments that commissioners will have, or we can move to make the same motion and take a vote again.
No problem. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Item C on our agenda, public comments on items not on the agenda. Do we have anybody here?
For items not on the agenda, no.
Okay, thank you.
We do have
For
Pat.
F1, we have a public speaker for item F1.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Pat, if you want to unmute to speak.
Pat, if you want to unmute to speak. Hello? Hello?
We hear you, Pat. Ms. Brown, we hear you.
Yes, Pat, we just put you on mute for a second because we were picking up a feedback loop. Your television was on in the background. If you can turn your television down at this point in time, that would be appreciated so all planning commissioners and staff can hear your comments. I'm going to count down from 3, 2, 1, and we will now unmute you and you are free to speak for 3 minutes. And Pat, you're still showing as muted on our side, so it'd be *6 to unmute. Although if you just turned off the TV. Commissioners, we're still showing that Pat's phone is muted on her end.
I see that, yeah. Okay, well, I think we'll just move on then. Let's retake the vote. I'll move recommended action on F1. Chavez is going the second. I'll close public comment and make the motion. Commissioner Chavez,
Yes, ma'am, reaffirming my second.
thank you very much. Can we have a repeat roll call, please?
Chair Frank,
Yes,
Commissioner Chavez,
Yes,
Vice Chair Sanchez,
yes,
Commissioner Araujo,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
motion passes.
thank you very much. I believe, Mr. Kolowitz, you've advised we have no study sessions or reports.
That is accurate. Sorry for getting ahead of you earlier.
Item H, Planning Commission business, Mr. Kolowitz.
Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say a few comments. As I shared at our last meeting of sitting on VCTC and the Freeway Patrol Service that was going to be introduced, at our last VCTC meeting, it was announced that in its first 3 days, it assisted motorists in beat 1 on the 101 freeway, so keeping our freeways free and clear. I also want to welcome our 2 new commissioners, Dr. Lopez and Commissioner Orejo, to the commission. And I want to thank Chair Frank for her 2 years back-to-back service as chair on the commission, as tonight is her last meeting as the chair. So with that, thank you.
Well, you don't know that. You don't know that we have an election April 1st. Don't count your chickens. All right, commissioners, any other commissioner planning business? Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair Frank. I did want to share about the information that I've gleaned from being part of the 2021 Planning Commissioner, I believe it's Academy for the Central Coast APA, American Planning Association. So that's been quite rich and dense, but some very compelling presentations, some really knowledgeable speakers. So since we last met, there was one focused on spaces for all, public spaces, and they talked about quite a bit, included just the shift in our country from a focus on common spaces in the 17th and 18th centuries to industrialization and crowding in the 19th century to the 20th century with our suburbs and backyards and single family zoning that really shifted the focus and shifted the amount of public space that was available. So some nice background on that. Information on what many areas are doing around creating effective urban plazas, equity in park and open space planning, some interesting concepts around linear spaces, what they're doing with streets, maybe to some degree kind of similar to what the promenade in Santa Monica is like, but other things that are similarly inventive and different as well to make streets available and functional for pedestrians, as well as for motor vehicles to varying degrees. They spoke about equity as a significant piece and the challenge with having largely a white male group in terms of planners in most areas and in decision makers. And so the need to reach out on equity to involve more of the community more broadly. And then this week was CEQA. So that was nice to get a broader, more basic understanding of CEQA, which I know could be and is for many people a lifelong learning process, but one that's quite important to us here in California and necessary.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably enough to share about that, but that's 3 weeks worth of sessions for you.
Oh, interesting. Good.
And Chair Frank, this is Scott Kolwitz. I wanted to call on Vice Chair Sanchez as well, because he's been signed up for the APA Planning Commissioners Academy as well. So if Vice Chair Sanchez had any other nuggets he wished to share with his commission, this would be a great time to do so.
Yes, thank you very much. It has been quite an experience. We're now 5 weeks in, and there's just the topics and just the issues having to do with planning and, how to develop a city and all sorts of other things that the amenities, what sort of amenities are going to be in the city and what have you. It's just they've had different topics every week, and it's going really fast. It's almost done now, but it's been a real eye opener as far as just the type of issues that have to be at times discussed and planned for. And it's been a very, very educational experience. If any of you have the opportunity, especially the two newest planners here, planning commissioners, welcome aboard. There will be opportunities like this, and it would be very beneficial, if you have the opportunity to attend some of these academies. It's been really, really good, especially for us planning commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see anything further. Mr. Kolwitz, Community Development Staff Update.
Yeah, Chair Frank, there's a couple. Let me go ahead and segue off of Vice Chair Sanchez's comments about training opportunities. Our new commissioners, we have notified them that there is another training opportunity that's falling on the heels of this meeting. The League of California Cities Planning Academy is also happening starting the end of March.
That's a really good one.
So that'll be another focused session. Registrations have started, and we will be covering the cost of that for our newest planning commissioners. Not only the two that you have before you tonight, but jumping forward, on March 30th, we are anticipating your 7th and final commissioner to be appointed by the City Council. And that planning commissioner, we've also notified of this training opportunity. So hopefully we'll have a full slate of commissioners, and all of you bringing your varied perspectives and backgrounds and these trainings with you to really help a full, robust discussion. So we look forward to all of that. In addition to that training, some other just happenings to share with you. So all of you know that we've been working on the draft housing element. At this point in time, you should have all received, and interested parties should have received, the notification that the draft housing element is available for public review. It's posted on our website right now, and it's open for public comment between March 10th and April 9th. In particular, there's a couple of dates that I wanted to share with everyone that's on the call today and maybe watching the video in the future. On March 24th, 6 p.m., we're going to be holding a virtual workshop on the draft plan. The Planning Commission will have it hand delivered to you, and it'll be the focus of your April 1st meeting. So that's another item for public discussion. And then looking to the future, we're also going to be bringing the draft housing elements to the City Council on April 29th. This isn't a decision-making time per se, it's a discussion. What happens with the plan is we're going to hear that discussion, possibly modify the plan depending on the comments that are received, and then bring that back ultimately through the Planning Commission to the City Council for an October 2021 adoption of the plan is the goal and the target that the state has provided to all California cities. So as of the end of this year, we're looking for the plan with the CEQA document all wrapped up. So Thank you in advance for your participation on this. It's going to be a lot of information to take in. And because of that, there won't be any other items on your April 1st meeting. That'll be the only substantive item. As we look at additional, your next meeting, April 1st, we do anticipate having your elections for chair and vice chair. So know that that'll be on your agenda. And the only other items that I wish to share with you, looking back at the city council meeting on March 30th, in addition to the appointment of hopefully your final commissioner, there are 2 planning items that are going to be on the city council's calendar that you've been monitoring. One is the climate action plan. Kathleen Mallory will be bringing an update to the city council about where the plan is. And the second item is the general plan and housing element. Each year, we're supposed to be providing a report to the state about how our implementation of those plans are going. One of the things that we've pushed for is to actually bring that before the city council and to share that with them. So there's a report that we wrote about the general plan implementation. And there's a spreadsheet, which is in effect the housing element report. And the numbers in that spreadsheet are incorporated, if you will, into the general plan report, just showing how we're doing relative to large projects, how we're doing relative to the construction of housing and meeting arena numbers. So just be aware that that's a receive and file report that we're providing to the city council. And the items for March 30th, I believe, should be posting to the city's website tonight. So if any of you want to check out those videos, those will be available for you as well. And with that, that concludes the items that I have to share with you tonight on behalf of the Community Development Department.
Wonderful. Did you tell me that you had some commentary by our departing commissioners?
Thank you. I would have felt remorse had I not shared that. I received I received a email from Commissioner Puring, and he asked me to share this with all of you. So just reading it directly. Dear planning staff and commissioners, I wanted to thank the staff for their incredible work and achievement this last 4 years. We accomplished some remarkable progress in a number of areas: short-term rentals, cannabis, saving some of our unique architecture from destruction, approval of a new business development or developments, and approval of much needed housing for the residents of Oxnard. I want to thank my fellow commissioners for their service, and I want to wish the new commissioners success in their new terms. Thank you, Jim Furing. So with that, again, we very much appreciated his time on the commission and the insight that he provided to all of us. And we wish both him as well as Commissioner Dozier the best as they pursue their own paths.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. We'll stand adjourned.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Arejo and Commissioner.
Yes.
Nice to meet you all. Handshake to everyone.
Yeah.
You all take care.
Have a good
Right.
evening. Okay.
I'm glad for a short meeting for my first. Okay, bye everyone. Good night.
Oh, just wait.
I know. I'm prepared. So.
Just wait.